And as we kind of move toward the future, we start thinking about things like diagnostics. Well, these are all tools that we would like to be able to leverage AI for, not just generative AI, but AI, machine learning, all of that. For it requires a large data set of truth in order to be reliable. Because what
Yeah.
we really don't want to do is build a tool that is just based on the gut of a generative LLM
Yeah.
and say, all right, we have diagnostics now. And it's like, well, you don't. Right, like you've raced toward mediocrity and you've put something out there, and the way that you actually build a strong tool for the future is pairing that generative capability with deep knowledge of subject matter. And I could talk about that forever.
Welcome back to another episode of Talking Out Our Assets. I am JP Cahalan, your fearless leader and host for this endeavor. I am being joined by two of XOI's best. I'm very excited for this conversation. They have absolutely no clue what I'm going to say. The reason I'm excited about this conversation today, I have Greg and Jeff from XOI who are literally the backbone of designing and building our product. And when we think about new technologies and the considerations that need to be taken, this is such a greenfield space. And there's so much where we could run forward and do all these things, but is it the right thing? And should we be doing it all? So having these two minds and the way they think about it, exceptionally critical in this world. As you guys know from my background, I've been with XOI for 10, 12 years, something like that. Came from a construction and manufacturing world. But I'm going to kick it over to these gentlemen to allow them to introduce themselves, give you a little background on them, and then we're going to open this thing up. So, Jeff, go ahead, my friend.
Awesome. Well, JP, excited to be here. Excited to talk through this. Obviously, AI is a big topic that everybody is talking about. So I'm excited to share how we think about it and how it's changing what we do. My name is Jeff Prince. I'm a CTO here at XOI. I've been here about 6 years. My background is in software development. Been doing software development for 25 years or so. A bunch of different companies doing billing and customer care, third-party logistics, referral generation and management, but have been with XOI, like I said, for the last 6 years, and just excited to be part of this, excited to be impacting the folks in our world that keep it running.
All right. Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me, JP. My name is Greg Thoman. I am a principal product manager here at XOI. Been here slightly less amount of time than Jeff, so about the 6-year mark now. And I also have a very technical background, but I also have a very mechanical background and a very manual background. So I kind of come from all over the place. On the product side, super into the technology piece, but then also applying that technology to help solve major problems and answer questions that really don't have great answers. So excited to have this conversation. This is something that I'm like personally passionate about as well. So it'll be a good conversation.
I freaking love it. Let's go. Let's get excited. All right. So here's where I start with kind of every conversation I have with anyone in regards to AI. And I think it's a good level set just for where we are. How do you guys use AI today? Like, what are you guys the core elements that you're using AI for in your team's day in, day out lives?
Yeah, I'll jump in first. And it's really interesting to think about the evolution of that over really even the last year. I mean, this has changed a lot over the last 3 years, but really I feel like ramped up in the past year to a point where this is almost my default. Whenever I start something new, it's like, hey, I'm going to go just brainstorm this idea, and I'll pull up ChatGPT or Claude and go, hey, I'm having this idea. Help me think through what are all the pieces that I should consider. The other piece where I use it is as I'm building out an idea or a design, having like Claude Code, for example, say, hey, well, just spit me out a quick POC. Let me see if I built it in this way, how does it feel? Is this heading down the path that I think it needs to head? And it allows me to like very quickly iterate on that and go from like an idea to a much more refined idea, that then I can share with my team. So many times I'll spend some time just thinking and having conversations with AI, and then I can share that with my team as we hand it off and go, hey guys, here's where my thoughts are. Here's some things to consider, but you guys take it and run with it. That's where I'm using it personally, like in work. Now, outside of work, I use it a ton as well. Just simple things. I think I shared this story with folks where I bought a golf cart and I was putting some like a screen and speakers into it, just like being able to chat and have that conversation. We just adopted a dog, so talking through, hey, what's the best way to like bring a dog into our house when we already have another dog, and those kind of things. So like simple things like that. But then circling back to my team and our engineering team, we're using AI to help us write code.
Awesome.
From idea to code that is going in production. Now, where we are very careful is that we have to understand the code that is being written. So we're not just vibe coding stuff and throwing it out into production, but it does help accelerate the speed at which we can get things done. And then our team is still reviewing that, making sure that they understand that code. We are using AI to do code reviews for us, like initial code reviews, because it's very good at understanding patterns, understanding guidelines and those kind of things. So we'll build out, here's what needs to be true for our team, and here's things to be mindful of, and just let the AI do the initial code review. Again, there's still a person manually going through and reviewing, but man, it can give them such a jump start to just take care of the quick boilerplate things that sometimes can be forgotten. I think that's where AI is really powerful, is those boilerplate, well-known, repeatable things. Let's let AI take care of that for us.
That's fascinating. There's a lot of stuff I'm going to jump into there. Greg, as far as kind of yourself, Jeff just talked about a lot of, I didn't even know some of the things he was doing with the team. What about yourself? Where are you living and dying with AI?
Yeah, I'll echo a lot of the things that Jeff mentioned. Some of the things that AI or generative AI is very good at is like summarization, classification, like working in things that are very well known. And so on our product team, we have a tool that we use to synthesize user input. Right. So from technicians in the field, they'll provide input. From executive stakeholders, they'll provide input. We'll pull in input from calls with clients and product meetings, and all of that can be shoved into this and synthesized and classified. And then you end up with this system that like the product team can go in and just ask questions and actually converse with that rich set of history. So from the product team perspective, that's where we spend a lot of time in the past, just sifting through information that we already know. We've already collected it. We've already done the work, but it's helping us like resurface a lot of those older conversations and kind of help kind of classify all that information. The the personal side, right? Like we use AI for a lot of things, and I do think it's a little bit important to make a distinction between artificial intelligence and generative AI. There's quite a difference there, and so when we're thinking about like generative AI, it's really good at summarization. It's really good at classification. It's really good at taking a large body of work of input and distilling it down so that it's understood. And so we'll use it for those purposes. I'll use it for those purposes as well. With my technical background, I'll use it as well for not really vibe coding, but vibe coding. Because I still, like Jeff had mentioned, I still need to know what that thing is actually going to do. And I have to understand the code that I'm putting out there in production on my own projects. But I will use it to help kind of shortcut that. Another way that we'll use it internally, and what I'll use it for my own stuff as well, is taking large amounts of data and describing the classification system that I want to use, and using generative AI to help with that like high level classification. So for my own stuff, it'd be like
Mhm.
generating lists of different orders and species of fish, right? But in, at XOI, it's like, here's all of the data that's been collected from a technician. What buckets of history do we put these things into? And so it's kind of it's applying critical thinking to something that in general is not really good at critical thinking, to try to get a better outcome.
No, I love where both of you guys are because you guys know I have a personal phone with a flip phone, so always wary of all things. Yes, for all of you that are out there, you're listening to a podcast about AI from a dude that owns a flip phone, but neither here nor there. You guys said a couple of key phrases in there, that I think we're going to talk about as we continue to go. Jeff, you said things to take into consideration how you use AI. I think that's a critical element. As I think about the person listening to this, the one of 7 people that may be listening to this right now, like how do I apply what these people are telling me? And like that is something that we're going to key in, and I want to kind of focus in on. And then Greg, you talking about the classification elements. Like that is one of the hardest things I think for an individual human and businesses to do is accurately and in large scale kind of classify events and actions within their life or their business to get to pattern recognition and the ability to gather insights. And I think those are 2 elements that I've heard you guys talk about where it's like that makes total sense. So hopefully we'll talk about those things. I want to start this off with the question that is hopefully very important for our contractors and our users to hear. You guys have heard me say for a long time, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And that is a phrase that can apply to a lot of things in life, but technology is definitely one of them. As we think about, obviously ChatGPT, OpenAI, and all the things that are coming out right now, if I'm a contractor and I'm sitting here listening to this and I have you two in front of me, what should I know about XOI's North Star in regards to these new technologies? Like how, and essentially what I'm asking is like, how are we viewing the world in this really rapidly evolving future of technology to ensure that we're supporting and making the best decisions for our users and their businesses and so on and so forth. So hopefully that question kind of makes sense. I know it's a big one. I'm well aware of that, and it'd probably take days to answer. But what are your guys' thoughts when we think about the North Star of this tool?
Yeah, when I think about how we position really any technology with our users and with our clients, it's what can this do to accelerate learning? What can this do to like decrease the amount of effort that it takes to document, that it takes to do paperwork, that it takes to analyze, right? So, and then if we think about this in the same kind of framework, it's like, well, what is AI, generative AI, really good at, right? And how can that help accelerate our technicians? And what is it really bad at? Right. And how do we steer clear of those pitfalls? One of the things that we learned early on is that you can't just point something at a generative AI and expect it to be good, right? Like it might be passable. It's something that I've been referring to as mediocre, right? And a race to mediocrity. Like if what you're working on is okay to be mediocre, just pass it over. Right. And then it's like, well, what really fits that description? But when you can take a pile of known data whether it's from a technician, from field surveys, from clients, you take that known data and you pair that with a generative AI response, and you're building that chain. Like, that's where you start to get into a lot of power. And so when I think about the way that we've applied AI to our product, it's going to be accelerating those notions. So one of the ways that we've done it in the past is with the field summary from a technician. So they're just going through the workflow and they're just answering questions, they're checking boxes, and then we create this narrative for the end customer using all of that data. Now, early on, we saw a lot of hallucination. But the more data and the more clarity we can provide, we start to see a lot of reduction in that hallucination. And as we kind of move toward the future, we start thinking about things like diagnostics. Well, these are all tools that we would like to be able to leverage AI for, not just generative AI, but AI, machine learning, all of that. For it requires a large data set of truth in order to be reliable. Because what we really don't want to do is build a tool that is just based on the gut of a generative LLM and say, all right, we have diagnostics now. And it's like, well, you don't. Right, like you've raced toward mediocrity and you've put something out there, and the way that you actually build a strong tool for the future is pairing that generative capability with deep knowledge of subject matter. And I could talk about that forever. So I'm going to go ahead and cut myself off and see what Jeff has to add to that.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is starting with understanding our users, understanding our contractors, understanding our, the back office folks, and where their pain points are, where their problems are, and understanding that to start with, and then figuring out a solution for that. And making sure that we're not, the answer is not always AI. It's not always generative AI, right? Sometimes it's just, hey, you just need a screen to go do a thing. So I think it's really important from our perspective to understand our customers and our users really well and understand what problems or pain points we can solve for them, and then deciding which tool to use for that. And I think, more and more we're seeing use cases where it's like, oh, we can actually accelerate this using AI or using an LLM or using generative AI. So I think that's first for me. Mm-hmm. Second is, as we build these features out, let's say we've decided, hey, we can solve this problem and AI is the right solution for that problem, making sure that we maintain that trust with our users and allowing them to guide that. When we get into like predictive and diagnostics and those kind of things, our users, our technicians that are in the field are extremely knowledgeable. They have a ton of experience, and we don't want to take that experience away from them. We don't want to pull them out of that process. So as we think about building features, it's like, hey, let's provide suggestions. Much as I'm generating ideas and bouncing ideas back and forth, the AI may give me a suggestion, but I'm going to use my experience and my background to guide that conversation. And that's how I think about our interaction with our technicians. Allow them, let's fast forward the research they have to do, or give them the fault codes, or give them the most known issues, or the most, or the best solution that we've seen work in the past, but ultimately allow them to make the decision because they are the ones with the experience and those kind of things. So maintaining that human in the loop that can provide feedback and provide guidance and allow them to have autonomy to move forward, I think is extremely important.
Dude, and wow, you said something there and it has got my mind racing. I'll never forget when my first failure in life, I was in like kindergarten. and they blindfolded me, and they let me see what was on a table, which was a loaf of bread, a jar of peanut butter, a jar of jelly, a plate, a knife, all the things. And they blindfolded me, turned me around, and said, "Now walk this person through how to make a peanut butter and jelly." And what I did not know I was trying to be back then was an actual prompt engineer. I had to say the right things for somebody to do. So you know what I said? I said, "Get a piece of bread." I didn't tell them to untie the bread. So they could not get to the bread. Like, this is the simplicity of, like, things are not even something as literally binary as you can. That is not a nuanced scenario. There's only a few variables in there: bread, a tie, a bag, all things. When I think about the technicians that we have working on this equipment, the nuances that they work on, or the things they work on, is so complex and so exponential. Is there a world in the foreseeable future where we could, and this goes to job security for all you technicians out there, where we could reliably be like, "Yeah, here's how you do this"? Like, how far away are we from literally that type of guided operation?
Right. Yeah, I think so. Part of that is general knowledge versus specific vertical knowledge, right? When I'm working with generic Gemini or generic GPT, Chat GPT, right? They're taking all the like data that they can find, but it's across the world, whatever they get access to, right? And so you're going to get maybe some varied answers, maybe not very, strategic answers. I think the advantage we have as XOI is we have years and years and millions of jobs that have been completed on this type of equipment. So we have a leg up over a generic tool like ChatGPT, where we can start to refine those prompts with examples, right? It's called like few shot examples, right? So when we feed something in, hey, historically, here's what we've seen work, right? Because we've seen this type of equipment, 25,000 times in the last year, and this type of scenario. So feed that in. That makes it smarter. Now, how close are we to full autonomous? Just let the AI figure it out. I think we're a ways away from that. And that's why, like, our technicians and their knowledge is extremely valuable. What we are trying to do is fast forward again, all of those, like, let me go find the documentation and find the exact examples, those kind of things. Hey, if we can get you, here are all the possible scenarios, and we've seen these happen in the real world, and we've seen them work, and we've seen what hasn't worked because we have all of this knowledge from all of these jobs. We can make the AI smarter and get us further along, or get the technician further along. So maybe there's not 8 options that might solve it. We can get it down to 2 or 3, and then let them, use their experience and continue to inform them on best ways.
So if I was to kind of read back what you said, our ability to be able to take what a technician may be doing in real time, provide, Greg, classification in an appropriate way, to then say to a technician, here are things to take into consideration. See what I did there too, Jeff? So what we're doing there is we're allowing somebody to get from A to Z as quickly as possible with the most accurate and, let's call it, prescriptive suggestions, thoughts, guidance, data, whatever word you want to use there. That is not saying, hey, go do this thing. It's saying, hey, this is what we see. This is historical context. This is this scenario.
Yep.
Here's a couple of routes. Figure out the best one. Am I hearing you right?
Yeah. And you hit a key word there, which is context. So we often talk about prompt engineering. Context engineering is just as important. So taking in all of the different contexts of the situation that the technician is in. What type of equipment is it? What make and model is it? How old is that equipment? What type of installation is it? Right? Is it in a data center, or is it in a manufacturing facility?
Yeah.
Where is it? in the region? Is it in the Northeast? Is it in the Southwest? All of those type of things, and being able to take all of that context. How experienced is the technician? When is the last time the technician worked on a similar piece of equipment? Feeding all of that context in allows us to understand what information they may need, right? We might not have to walk an experienced technician through 10 steps to troubleshoot something. We can make the assumption that they know the first 3 steps because they're very experienced, right? But hey, everybody needs to make sure they do this, or get this measurement, or get this additional context that makes it smarter.
Fascinating.
One of the things that it's kind of a thought exercise that we did with the team, was asking questions of like, well, when a technician is not turning a wrench, right? Like, what are they doing? Right. And it's like, well, they're looking for documentation, they're looking up service history, they're calling their lead technician, they're calling their manager, they're calling support, and then what types of questions are they asking? Right. And so when we started to construct this narrative, it's like, oh, well, like we're basically the support engine for technicians in the field, right? Because when you look at the type of information that we need to be collecting to be able to do diagnostics, like those are the exact questions that a support engineer at a major manufacturer is going to ask that technician, right? And so when we think about like the way to figure out, even just figure out the context that we need to provide an engine to be able to help diagnose, right? Like, yes, we want all this information because it makes the system smarter. It makes the AI agents smarter. But also, like when a human needs to step in, we want them to have all of the context as well. So if along this way, if we need to escalate to an OEM support, like all of that information doesn't need to be rediscovered because we already have it. We already have it from the technician. We already have it from context. And so it was just really interesting to go through that process with the team and see. It's like, oh, we just built a support chat, right? Like we didn't build a chat bot, but it's like what we outlined was like a support case.
And that's interesting to me because, as I'm sitting here thinking about all these opportunities and all these use cases, the why behind the context and the questions is if I'm getting all the appropriate levels of information, like Greg, you just said, so a person could, interact if needed. So OEM could interact if needed. But also if I'm getting that structurally all the way through, that is the backbone for me to help the next person. That's the ability for us to grow this thing and build this thing and have it learn, but it needs all the context.
Saying that kind of a different way, like if you disconnect the engine from the folks getting data and getting the context, and like you have nothing. You just have nothing.
How far is too far in the context? And here's what I mean by that. Like if I was to tell you about my truck, the things that you would need to know about my truck are going to be, the year, the make, the model, the engine side, blah, 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 blah. You don't need to know that it's cloth interior. Like, and I know as a previous, and I see, Greg, I see you going, well, maybe I do. I know the users out there of XOI and a lot of blue collar individuals are a lot like me. Like I'm a very simple, minimal type person. I want to provide you the information that you need, and that's just about it. Like, how do we know where it's like we have enough context? I don't need to ask you for just other random shit. Like, this is my fear with AI and like the involvement of it's going to be with, especially users like us. It's like, I'm asking you way too much and I'm taking you away from turning that wrench. How do we know when enough is enough?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's where the dynamic nature of this allows us to control that experience, right? So as opposed to feeding every technician the same 25-step workflow, being able to dynamically build that up based on the context, right? If I'm working on your truck, it depends on what problem I'm trying to solve, right? Do I need to know whether it's cloth or leather? Well, I don't know. It depends on what your problem is. If your problem is that like, it's idling rough, yeah, I don't need to know cloth or leather. But if it's hey, there's a funky smell.
The bear spray went off in the back seat. Let's just, as an example, bear spray went
Right.
off in the back seat.
Right.
Not saying it
Right.
happened. Not saying it happened.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, I want to always know what's the make and model of your and year, right? Like those are some very key contextual pieces. And I think there are always going to be data points that are we need to know that for every use case. But then depending on what you're doing, whether you're doing a break fix or a maintenance or a safety workflow, there are different that drives the type of information that needs to be captured, so that we can build that up. And as we look towards the future of XOI, being able to be flexible and dynamic allows us to we don't want you to have to fill out 25 steps if 7 of those aren't valuable. Let's just make sure that we capture the most valuable pieces.
I'm going to go the other direction. So like you talk about like the context coming into the system, right? Like getting information from a technician. The other side we also need to pay close attention to, which is how much information do we give back to the technician? Because when you think about how they're doing work right now, right? You open a manual, you see a table of contents, you can scan it for the section you want, you can go straight to that section, you can go down, you can find the table, and then you can get your information. We can't just be like, all right, we know what you need, data dump, right? Like we have to be intelligent about how we format this, all the way back to like, how are we making things scannable? When you have a limitless data source, it still needs to be scannable, categorized, easy to parse. So yes, incoming, definitely need to figure out like where the lines are for the context that's needed. And then on the output, like given the context, like what is it most likely that they're looking for? And then how do we make it easy to find something else if we didn't provide the right thing? Like it's a fascinating problem.
So I got another question for you guys, a little bit different of a turn, but in regards to the ethics of AI, I think it's something that we really, really have to touch on. When I think about today's people, today's world, like people don't know how to use a map. They don't know how to read it. Most people don't know how to use a graphing calculator because they don't have to anymore. We all remember the TI-82s or whatever the hell they were. Like, by the way, you could actually like save things on there so the person could answer. If you traded calculators, you could 100% just pass answers to a test. So you kids out there, if the world ever falls back in disarray and you got to use a TI-86 or 82, there's a cheat code. So when we think about that type of tribal knowledge, the ability to kind of learn those things and leverage those things, is AI going to displace that? What we're talking about here is essentially an easy button. Is if enough context is there. Is there a concern we have here?
From my own experience, I think it is a concern, and I think it's a valid concern. There's been studies done around with like early ChatGPT users that have shown cognitive decline in critical thinking skills, and we also have like anecdotal things like when like the type of knowledge that I retain is not the type of knowledge that I can just go and search for. If I can just Google something and then get my answer, typically I'm not retaining that knowledge. And this is just kind of amplifying it. So now, like when we're just talking about like ChatGPT usage, LLM usage, like I think there really is a risk of losing the skills that define critical thinking. And so, and I've noticed this with other companies as well and small businesses, and it's something that we definitely need to think about. Where like the business leader will go full in on ChatGPT, and they're just like pushing stuff to their team. They're like, "Hey, check this out. This is a neat idea. This is a cool idea." And what they're doing is outsourcing their critical thinking to an LLM and then passing down the responsibility to their team to validate, one, that it's even accurate, that it's not a hallucination, that the data is true and supports it, and then whether it's a good idea or not. Meanwhile, ChatGPT has given the business owner exactly what they're looking for, And now this person that has been hired to do that thing has kind of a double job to do. They have to look at that and parse that idea, and they have to
Mhm.
figure out if it's good or not. And then they have to supply their own idea back to that person. And the problem is it took the leader no thought to be able to provide that document down. And so what I'm seeing is like ideas coming down into a like an organizational tree, and it hamstrings the team because then you already have cognitive bias at the top,
Yeah.
then you have it at the next level, and it starts to erode critical thinking through and integrate through the entire company, the organization.
Let me turn that into our technician. What I hear you just say into a technician world, and then I want to get Jeff's thoughts. In a practical sense, that would be me essentially. I'm out on a roof and I go to Chat GPT with a problem of a system that I'm working on. Chat GPT could respond back and tell me, well, based on what you're saying, it's probably this. I am going to lean more traditionally because it's telling me, hey, it's a problem with the inducer draft mode or whatever. I'm all of a sudden biased because I'm hearing this from what I believe to be a true and accurately data provided thing, when in reality, all this is doing is taking me out of my process for getting to my in my line of logic to get to the answer. Is that am I breaking down your
Yeah.
example correct in a simple technician form?
Yeah, you're outsourcing the thought piece.
Got it. Okay.
You're giving it information and you're getting a response, and you're holding that in equal weight to your own critical thinking.
I'm putting blinders on. Okay. Jeff, what are your thoughts on the tribal knowledge element of this and the kind of things we
Yeah.
should be weary of?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think there is risk there, right? If we lose the ability to think critically and more importantly, to understand some of the basic concepts of our world. And I'm going to tie this a little bit to software engineering because that's kind of my background. But I think we can make a connection here. And this is going to lean a little bit more up. So I definitely think there's a risk and there's some optimism here. So when I think about the history of software development, my dad was in software his entire career as well. When he started writing code, uh, he had to understand all of the details. And literally, it was a card that you took to a computer that was the size of the room that I'm sitting in, and you fed it in, and you had to understand every single detail of how that system worked, how it managed memory, and how it moved all the zeros and ones around together. Had to understand a very deep level. Well, when I started, writing code 25, 30 years ago, I didn't have to understand all of that kind of stuff because that had been solved by some frameworks and those kind of things. But I still needed to understand business logic and how the code worked and how data moved and those kind of things. I had to understand some like lower level things.
Mhm.
Well, now, 5 years ago, a lot of those things were taken care of. There are frameworks that took care of that and allowed the developer to just focus on solving the problem. And
Mhm.
as I think about where AI starts to come in and, how we're starting to see AI involved in development more and those kind of things, it's shifting in how I need to think, right?
Mhm.
I don't need to understand all of those low level details because they're essentially is table stakes that the system that you're working in understands all of those kind of things. And it allows me to think at a higher level to solve more difficult problems, more higher level problems, because I'm not having to spend all the brain cycles figuring all of those things out. Now, where the risk I think comes into our world, in that is that if nobody understands those low level details, because the guy that wrote those frameworks 15 years ago now is retired and gone, and all of a sudden that breaks and it no longer works, then nobody understands that. And I think that's where the risk comes in. I think where, as we see more and more technicians retiring and that tribal knowledge leaving with them, I think that's where the risk comes in. Is that like, does anybody understand all of those little details enough to solve it when it does break? So.
No, and it's a fascinating thought experiment, and I've loved this conversation, guys. I have one more question for you. It's more of a fun question, but I want to thank you both before we kind of march down that path. It's been enlightening for me. I've learned a lot of things that I should have known, and I didn't. So I admit that fault right now. But the other thing is, for those 7 of you that are out there listening, it is. I'm happy you got to hear these 2 leaders in our business talk about how they think, because it's important. Greg said it. There's kind of an input and an output type of thing. You got to think about the entirety of the experience. You got to understand, how's it impacting here and also impacting here. It's almost a butterfly effect type of thing. But this is, we are navigating this world. I love the fact that these listeners got the insight into kind of how you guys view it and how you guys think about it, and the things we're holding ourselves accountable, and the things we're thinking about for the future to ensure that the tribal knowledge is staying, and the framework, the foundation that, to your point, Jeff, may become something that is known and nobody has to know anymore. But are we ensuring that that is a known thing and it will always be provided? Or is that something people still need to know? Like, these are all, it's fascinating. So we're going to end it on this last question. Now, you have to tell me that you're picking one or the other. You cannot choose no. And then you got to tell me why. Would you rather own, raise, and take care of 10 horse-sized ducks or 1 duck-sized horse?
1 duck-sized horse.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. 1 duck-sized horse. Yeah, because it's easier to feed. People will be fascinated by that size horse, and I would totally show it off, figure out how to monetize that somehow.
This is a revenue stream for you. Is that what I'm hearing? I mean, it is one of my favorite thought experiments, because people literally start going, everybody goes and like, oh, what, I got to feed it? How do I clean it? What do I do? And then, where can you take this thing? Like, it all becomes fascinating. So, but guys, I cannot thank you enough for being a part of this. I know I took you out of your days. It has been something that is very powerful for me to listen to and hear. And I hope the same for all you out there. So until next time, y'all take care. Welcome back, everybody. JP Cahalan again. Back to another session episode of Talking Out Our Assets, which is as good as you want it to be. Again, JP Cahalan. I am joined by Denny Lawrence from Comfort Systems. I will say this out loud. I'll say this to his face. One of my favorite people in the industry, but also just favorite people in general. If you have not had a chance to meet this guy, I highly encourage that you do it. But Denny, would love for you to introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How long you've been with Comfort, all the vital types of things.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Denny Lawrence, manager of service technology for Comfort Systems USA. If you're not familiar with the company, we're a national HVAC, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, all of those sorts of things company. We have several companies nationwide, from anywhere from Washington to Florida to Buffalo to Texas and in between. So I help manage and drive efficiency and innovation through the companies, and just try to find some solutions that make lives easier for whether it be the front line or the office team, whatever we can do to drive more efficiency. That's kind of what I do. I've been with the company for 15 years. I actually started in the building automation call center at one of our national account departments, and just went through sort of moving up to management and national accounts management. And now I have the blessed opportunity of being a part of what we call the crazy idea department, alongside the man himself, Joe Lang. And I'm just love what I do, love working with JP and the XOI team. So I'm super excited to be here today.
Oh, dude, we're happy to have you. And the fact that we're talking about AI and all the things, and your title is efficiency and innovation, I mean, it is literally the exact conversation we need to have. You don't need to comment on this, but I'm going to say it. Joe Lang is like the man. He is. I've never seen Wizard of Oz, but he's like Oz, but like a nice Oz. Because I just found
Right.
out Oz is not nice in these movies. So like, little on what I know. So, no,
I
dude,
love it.
so thrilled to have you here, and get your perspective on things.
Yeah.
You know, AI is all the rage on everybody, and it makes me laugh when people are like, "Oh, we'll just use AI for that," and it's like people don't technically have a concept of it. Like AI has just become this thing, almost like I grew up in the South, and it's like, "Hey, you want anything to drink?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll take a Coke." And they're like, "Well, what kind?" Because Coke in the South means everything.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
right? So, as we think about AI, I always like to start with this conversation. When you are using AI at a personal slash personally professional, how do you best utilize AI? What's your go-to and you're like, "Hey, this is what I trust it for. This is where I'm always going to go hit."
Yeah, so there's two levels that I do that. We'll start with personal, and we'll go into personal business, because then that kind of
Mhm.
evolves into just having some discussions about AI in general.
Yeah.
I coach three sports. I am certifiably crazy, having three kids, and all three kids are in sports. And I coach all but one, and that's just because I've never played lacrosse before. My oldest plays lacrosse, so I coach baseball, basketball, football, and pee wee baseball for my little 6-year-old, right? So
Awesome.
when it comes to creating practice plans and things like that throughout each one of those sports, I mean, it's just one of those things that is very tedious, right? Obviously, I have a
Mhm.
full-time job. Try to not just be coach dad all the time. So
Yeah.
when it comes down to creating like practice plans and things like that, ChatGPT, Copilot, even Gemini, right, are things
Mhm.
that I just go to straight away and say, hey, these are the things that I want my team to focus on. Here are the struggle points. I have 60 minutes to work. Give me a practice plan that focuses on these things, and it will just reel it out, and then I'll
That's
just
cool.
review it, make modifications, send it to the coaches, review it, and then we're ready to rock and roll. And it's taken from expertise across the internet, right? So
Mhm.
obviously you'll come into some weird things with obviously the hallucinations and things like that, but that's where the human side, if you let the AI do a lot of the work, then the human side is really just taking that to the next level and saying, hey, my expertise is way better than what the AI is right now in what
Mhm.
I need. But it gives me such a great base. It saves
Yeah.
me a ton of time to be able to just knock that out and get that going and keep things organized. So on a personal level, that's one thing that I love to do.
Mhm.
Switching gears a little bit to the business side of things, AI is a big usage for emails. It's for working on projects. I mean, when you think about stuff that you have to do anymore, like PowerPoints and things like that, like you can literally just go in and use AI to say, hey, I want this color scheme, I want this kind of topic, and here are my discussion points. And you can use Copilot to go ahead and knock out that presentation. And again, that's something that would have taken an hour, 2 hours just to be the design side. And if you're anything like me, like I don't like to put just a white screen with some, you know what I mean, some block text or whatever, right? It's got to be good looking. It's got to be representative of the crazy side of me, right? So I want that
Yep.
opportunity to be able to make that, for a lack of a better term, sexy, right? So
Yeah.
when I get the opportunity to, hey, Copilot, knock this out and get me to where I want to go, then it's beautiful right there to even start that. Email summaries. That's a big one that I've been able
Mm.
to use it for, is to go in and actually prioritize based off of what is in the email. Just having a sidebar and say, hey, summarize what's important or what I need to take care of in the next day or so, right, of
Mhm.
organization, and being able to do that. When it comes to looking at low code, no code stuff, you think about how much time it took to code things, or if you had a question with
Mhm.
an Excel formula, right? There's no more trying to mess around with it until you
Mhm.
get your syntax errors correct, right? You literally just type in what you want to do, or you can even put the Excel spreadsheet up there and kind of roll with it, and it does the work for you. Like it's table stakes. It's
Yeah.
just, if you're not using it, then you are so far behind and wasting so much of your time that it's just not even fair to the people who aren't using it. So it's something that you've got to embrace. If you're not, you're just wasting your own time. And I highly encourage everybody to get in there and dig in and just get their feet wet with it.
I love it because as the way you said it, like it's not fair. I and with your background, and your coaching, I immediately went to like Barry Bonds, Mark McGuire, and Jose Canseco. I'm like, this is a performance enhancing drug. That's what this is. Like,
It is,
like, why
right?
are you not using it? Let's all go
Right.
hit 73 home runs. Like, why are we not doing this? Nah,
I
it's
love it.
and I gotta comment on this, dude. My marketing team is gonna laugh when they hear this. When I built presentations and I deviated from brand standards, buddy, I'm talking like 1970s type, hot yellow, hot pink. Like, I'm like, this is going to get attention. And they're like,
Yes.
dude, just do it in black and white and we'll take care of the rest. Just give me the content. I was like, fair. So
All
they
right.
kind of put me on the leash
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
put me in a doghouse. So,
There you go.
I mean, dude,
Yeah.
I love, you covering the AI. I think the problem, and this whole series is all about AI. I'm talking to all different kind of stakeholders and job types and this, that, and the other. And like, there's this kind of review and refine element, but you said something that I love, which is like, I'm better than it, is what I heard you say. Your expertise in certain places is better than the expertise it's pulling from
Right.
or what it's finding at that moment in time. And it's like,
Yeah.
don't let that be the end all be all. Let it be the things to think about it, take into consideration. Oh, have you thought about this type of stuff? And then work, refine, and let it be the thing that gets you
Exactly.
80% of the way there, not 100. I think that's where people maybe run into. So
Yeah.
when you think about getting that level set on like how you use it, because your personal utilization of AI sets your expectations for how, whether, personally we like it or not, how people should be using it. There's kind of a
Yeah.
judgment element in there. And because you know the capabilities, when you think about providers that you work with for comfort systems, like technology providers, just even other, even I know you guys do subcontract work.
Yeah.
What is in regards to technology providers specifically, what's your expectation of how they should be using AI? Like,
Yeah.
do you have kind of like a bare bones where you're like, dude, if they're not even doing this, like,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's table stakes. If they're not
Yeah.
using it, it's pretty much a non-discussion point, right? And even something as simple as with XOI, and I say simple very vaguely, it's not as simple as it sounds, but with the AI summaries that are provided with the technicians putting in all of their information and workflows and putting out a really solid deliverable that the customer can easily read, it's correct grammar, spelling, everything else like that. Even something as quote unquote simple as that makes a huge impact to the customer experience. So it's something that when we're talking to software partners, it's definitely one of the first things that we're bringing up. And if honestly, I take that back. We shouldn't even be the ones bringing it up. They should be the ones bringing it to us as to what they're doing and how they're utilizing AI to improve the customer experience. During Vision Exchange, when we were out there in Nashville, we had the gentleman there from Microsoft, and he said that technology is moving faster in the next 5 years than it has in the last 25. I mean, you think about how fast technology is moving, and AI will probably expedite that even faster than what that expectation really is. You cannot be behind the eight ball at this point and expect to have a solid customer base without not extreme, but at least a very robust AI roadmap of what you're going to do and how you're going to do it to enhance the customer experience, not just today, but tomorrow, next week, next month, and those things. There was a quote that I absolutely love that I'm going to steal from Briston Blair, which is our vice president of technology and innovation, incredibly intelligent man, but he basically said that technology won't replace your job, right? But those who use AI, like AI won't replace your job. But if those who use AI, they will, because they're already utilizing that. And you're going to be so far behind the eight ball, right?
Yeah.
That they're executing so much work so much faster than what you are. So it's not about the AI replacing jobs. It's about the people using AI that are going to do things better, faster, more efficiently, cleaner, and deliver a better customer deliverable. So again, it's one of those things to where if you're not coming to us with, and it doesn't have to be bleeding edge, right? We're not one of those that has to be a trailblazer. We don't need to be right in front of everything. But if you're not coming to us with some solutions that reduce multiple clicks or even the points of like a Google search or anything else like that, you should be able to get to the point to where you're providing what I'm looking for when I'm looking for it and know why I'm
Mhm.
looking for it using all the AI and the data and everything that we have. I mean, that's just a bare minimum anymore of what we're looking for in a technology partner. So
No, I love that, and I think you said it at the very beginning, like, we shouldn't have to ask what you're doing.
no,
You should be tell it like this if it's not ingrained and part of the discussion, then we're probably not gonna have a discussion. And I
absolutely.
think that I think that's fascinating to think about. I also love what Briston said because, like, I'm be real honest. If my team's listening, like, I'm not working 40 hours a week anymore. I'm putting this like, yeah, this thing's killing it for me. So I got tons of
Yes.
time.
Yeah.
No, but you're exactly right. When you think about it, because you're in a unique spot, right? You are, let's take XOI as an example. Like,
Sure.
we leverage an AI. You guys use us. Like,
Hmm.
when we bring AI solutions to the forefront and put them into our product, there's a value that is felt by Comfort Systems personnel.
Yeah.
There is also obviously a trickle down effect of the tools that we can build in regards to AI that impact your end customer. Do you guys, as an organization, knowing that you have technology providers in this space, has that been broken out to identification of value at a internal versus external level, or is it currently lumped together as far as like the overall AI value? And the second part of that question is, if you guys haven't isolated it out yet, do you see that coming in the future to where there may be technology providers that are like, yeah, dude, the bang for the buck on this is truly end customer value, and it's worth whatever it is, even if it's not doing so much for us
Right.
personally.
Yeah. It's a great question. And I think Comfort has a unique view of customers. So when we think
Mhm.
of customers, we think of external customers, internal customers. We use that as a blanket statement saying, regardless of who it is, you're my customer. Like JP, you're my customer, right? Even though
Yep.
you're a partner of ours, you're my customer. So I want to be able to
Mhm.
take care of you just as I would take care of my internal team. So I
Yep.
think the way that we look at it at Comfort is more of an overarching, if we take care of our people, we take care of the front line and provide a very, very robust and clean experience for our technicians, then to your point, that trickle down effect on how that AI solution will then go to the office. And then whatever solutions there will then go to the customer. And then from the customer, it will come back to us, hopefully in growth, right?
Mhm.
In additional opportunities within their organization, or just their opportunity for them to say, hey, we had a great experience with this Comfort Systems team. Like, they're doing XYZ and providing this, like, right on
Yeah.
spot. Like, I am getting a service ticket before that technician leaves with pictures, with readings, with all this stuff, and I can have that linked and saved and go back and do whatever I need with it. So I think right now we like to look at the customer base as a whole and really
Mhm.
look at that trickle down effect. And now to the second part of that question, do we see us starting to isolate some of that when it comes to customer experience? It depends on the customer demand. I think one thing that a lot of people are going for is, trying to find a way to put a mobile app in front of a customer, or finding ways for the customer to get more information quicker, whether it be how much spend they have, or
Mhm.
how many times somebody's been to the site, or their scheduling, or even creating a schedule, right? Or scheduling a
Yeah.
service call from a mobile app, and then getting a response back on when the available times are for that person to come. So I think there are some opportunities there. 10 years ago, we wouldn't even looked at it. I mean, we
Mhm.
created dashboards at strategic accounts for years for customers. I think we had maybe 3 customers log in once a year.
Yeah.
So really, it's going to be based on the demand of what the customer is really looking for. Do they want something delivered from us, or do they want something that is going to have more of a mobile feel to it? And if so, then how do we leverage AI to bring in all of this information, right? Whether it be an AI agent or a chat bot or something of that nature, to be able to bring all that stuff and deliver it to the customer directly to them. We're kind of testing the waters here. We've got some development and research to do on that to see if that's a viable situation. But I guess the overarching thing is right now we still keep it compartmentalized, not compartmentalized, overarching when I look at customer impact, and we start at the front line.
I love that, dude. And I think that, as you were talking, like, this is why I love talking to you. You get my mind going in ways that I'm like, okay, yeah, thinking about things in a different way. It's like, I used to ask questions to people, 10, 12 years ago. I'm sitting in rooms with contractors. I'm like, what was the last software you invested in with your end customer in mind? Like,
Yeah,
literally, and generally the answer to that question was only the FSM. And that's more about you wanting to coordinate dispatching and all that. I think, as I ask that question, I think there's going to be the isolation of,
yeah,
hey, it's an internal value and an external value. But I also think there's going to be this, because of AI, you're now just going to see it could all blend together. Where, like, a
exactly.
tool you invested in for internal purposes, if used correctly with AI to get insights, can become an external weapon.
Bingo.
And I think that's going to be the fascinating part of where this goes, is how are people doing that appropriately? And then pressure from, I love that, you view us the same way that we view you, but pressure from you guys to us to say, hey guys, there are these data sets that are sitting here. How can you guys weaponize this? Help us weaponize it.
Yep.
It's been existing, and it's all these things. So now I think that is I think that's going to be a very, very interesting thing for us to see as we move forward. I got a last fun question for you, and I'm going to ask this also too. So there's two questions. One is,
Okay.
I love talking to you. Will you come back and talk with me about other things and be
I would
on
love
talking
to.
out our ass? Okay.
Dude, I
All
would
right.
love to. I would
Just
absolutely
want
love
to make sure, because this conversation is fantastic. I mean, I know we only got about 7 people listening right now, but it's great. It's great.
It's
All
great.
7 are having a good time.
Exactly.
Are you following the college football playoffs?
Oh, you know what's funny is when I was getting ready for today. All right. So I'm
Yeah.
obviously, well, I can say obviously. I'm in Indianapolis. Okay.
I was
IU
gonna say,
has
Indiana
not
plays tonight.
been in a college football anything forever. So I literally was getting ready to put on an IU polo, and I was like, I probably need to go brand today, right?
No,
But
bro. You should have went IU
dude,
polo.
now I will say, so you see up here, right here, I am a huge
Yeah.
Notre Dame fan. Not happy with the snub this year, but I'll tell you what,
Understood.
when you've got IU rolling in the way that they are and just taking care of business, dude, I'm fully invested, fully excited. I've got my striped tearaway pants upstairs ready to go. I'm super excited about the college football playoff. And on top of that, for those listeners who aren't invested in IU football and the magic that it is, it's going to be an interesting thing with how this whole thing rolls out. It's different to see like teams like Ole Miss and Oregon and Miami in it. You get
Yeah.
away from the Alabamas, the Georgias, and whatever. I love it, man. So
Crazy.
it's
I
just a
I
lot
love
of
it
fun.
too.
So I'm super
The
stoked
IU
about it.
The IU story is magical. I love it. I'm going to tell you this right now. I want you guys to win. I'm calling it out right now. I want you guys to win. But here's what I'm going to do just to make this world fun.
Yeah.
I know you're going to bet IU. We're going straight up. You're betting
Okay.
IU. I'll go Oregon, even though I don't want to. Next time we get together, winner gets the beer from the other person.
Beautiful. Consider it done.
For the first beer for the rest of 2026, every time we're in the same room.
Beautiful. I'll take that too. Let's go.
Awesome, brother. Well, listen, I'm excited. I'm excited for you for tonight to enjoy that. I'm going to be watching too. But
Yeah,
thank you
absolutely.
so much for this conversation. Your perspective, like sharing how you personally use it, how you use it in your business, your perspective of where it should be and what people should be focusing on. For those that are listening, whether you're in the space as a contractor, whether you're a vendor, whether it is, like, listen to what this dude is saying. I think he is hitting the nail on the head, and we should all be thinking through what is possible and what we should be doing with this tool. You don't have to have all the answers, but it needs to be part of your process. So,
Absolutely.
Denny, thank you so much, brother. Appreciate you.
Oh, appreciate you. Thanks for having me.